Activate Your Introvert, the weekly radio show to help you uncover and unlock the entrepreneurial skills in your business. In this week's show, Introvert Myth of the Week. Introverts are antisocial. Leadership Tip of the Week. 5 ways to better understand introverts so you can boost productivity in your firm. And a discussion with Colin Newlin. Colin decrapifies work. In his words, for far too many people, work is crap, leading to pitifully low levels of employee engagement and the workplace being awash with apathy. I'm sure many of us can recognise some of that. Just before speaking to Colin, in your team, there's probably a mix of amazing people. Some are always talking extroverts and some are much quieter introverts. It's quite possible you find the introverts harder to get to know, harder to understand, and perhaps harder to get to interact with your team. As we return from a scorching bank holiday week, according to the media at least, and think about returning to the office, and there's plenty about that in the media, it might be a good time to consider understanding and better using your whole team. Why bother understanding introverts? In many teams, the structure and the way the team is run tend to disfavour the introvert. As introverts can easily be a third to a half of your team, you can easily be losing productivity, creativity, and diversity of thinking. All 3 important to your business. Understanding your introverts will allow you to increase the ways they contribute to the team and you'll get a better business. If you want to get more from the people in your team, it's best to understand a bit more about them. Introverts are often less understood than more gregarious people. Here's 5 ideas to help understand an introvert in your team. 1. Don't be overly suspicious. Introverts are more likely to be quiet. They're not shying away from you or uninterested in their role in the team. They are probably being thoughtful, as introverts tend to examine their surroundings. 2. Don't assume introverts are shy. It's easy to make the mistake of assuming introverts are shy. Introverts tend to lose energy when it comes to external stimulation. Unlike extroverts who get their energy from other people, introverts charge up their energy from within, and it drains the longer they spend with other people. 3. A common assumption is that introverts are afraid to speak. This is probably because they've chosen who they will spend their time with and when their energy is best used in group conversations. The problem with this is that many business discussions reward those who speak first and fast, which excludes the richer and more detailed thinking from your introverts. Create space for your introverts in discussions. 4. Introverts don't like small talk. No, they don't really like meaningless discussion, as it does nothing but drain their limited social energy without any benefit. Small talk, if often repeated, predictable, and meaningless dialogue. Instead of asking your introvert team member how the evening was, ask more specific questions about their general interests. 5. Introverts need quiet time. Even fully involved introverted team members need quiet time. This is how they recover their energy. Don't be insulted when an introvert wants to be left alone. After they've done recharging, they'll jump back to you with many things to say. If you want to discuss ways of improving your whole team working, I would love to chat more. Do let me know what tip you'd like to help you activate the entrepreneurial skills in your business, or what introvert myth you'd like exposed. Drop me an email, give me a call, or add it as a comment to your review on the iTunes store. I would love to hear from you. But now it's time to chat to Colin. Welcome, Colin.
Welcome, John.
Really good to talk, and I know we've been swapping notes on LinkedIn where you have a lot to say about the future of work and the office environment. But just before we dive into that, I'd really love to know, are you an introvert, an extrovert, or somewhere in between? And what does that mean to you?
So I think I am an ambivert, but tending towards the introvert end of that scale. I very much like being with people and talking to people and particularly talking about ideas, but only so much. Then I get tired and I have to go away and have some time by myself.
Just like me, actually.
Yeah. And I also like to spend time reflecting and thinking. I may be occasionally guilty of overthinking.
Okay.
I can be very extrovert when I need to, but I don't like.
But I think that's the great thing, isn't it? We forget that introvert and extrovert is something inside us, but we can learn tools and tactics to appear at the other end of the spectrum at times if we want to. It might not be the best place for us to spend all of our time.
No.
Before we dive into all of that, let's come back to the future of work. What led you to focusing on decrapifying work?
I guess, it was my own sort of experience of work. The first part of my career was very good and positive, and the second part wasn't. The things that made work crap for me were completely unnecessary and counterproductive. We should create environments that help people thrive and develop, and then you get happier people and better businesses. Yeah, so that's the flag I wanted to plant in the ground.
I could safely line up with that mission, I must admit. In that, guys, I know you've been thinking a lot about the impact of office environments and the future of work.
Well, yeah, obviously it's become a very current conversation, what with the pandemic making everybody suddenly have to switch to work from home, which was something that I'd been doing for a long time. I think it made apparent that companies had simply just refused to believe it was possible. And then within 2 weeks, they were doing it. So I think that opens up a whole load of opportunities for us, and particularly in terms of helping people who have been ignored. And that particularly includes introverts, but also other people. Introverts are not a minority group, but minorities as well, like women and disabled people and neurodiverse people as well.
It's almost as if the workplace had become structured around what was efficient to bung as many people into, rather than actually work with the people in there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the office environment has sort of come about rather than being designed for anything really. It's a desk factory essentially, and it's particularly well suited to extroverts, white male extroverts. It's a very noisy place, lots of distraction, lots of people meeting. Having a loud voice and lots of opinions normally works quite well in the office environment, but it's not very good for us introverts, and particularly for the sort of deep focused work that it's something we excel at. In fact, the office is the worst environment because of the noise, interruptions, intrusions. This is the stuff that Cal Newport calls deep work. If you were designing a place not to do deep work, you'd probably come up with the office, which is why quite often people scurry off to meeting rooms or run out to cafes so they can actually sit down and get some peace and quiet.
Crazy, really, isn't it? Because you're absolutely right. There's so many offices I go and work with clients in, and you see meeting rooms full of, in inverted commas, individual people. Where one person has gone to a meeting room, clearly they're not having a meeting because they can work quietly. Or people scurry out to a coffee shop to work quietly. And there's all that noise in the background, but it's presumably easier than working in an office.
Well, yeah, it's a low-level noise, and they're not going to get interrupted by anybody. And it's just a more conducive environment. I think we're moving towards a more broader mix of environments to work in. Some maybe at home, remote, coffee bars, third office spaces, which will be better and will appeal to a broader mix of personalities and other sort of needs that people have.
On a certain day last year, suddenly everything changed overnight. But for a long time, people had resisted it. And now I still know many leaders who are trying to shove everybody back into the office because they don't want this change to go on. What's causing that problem, do you think?
That environment has worked very well for them because they've got to the top. So they're sort of either, I don't know if they're willfully blind to it, but they just can't see why everybody doesn't love being in the office. We know that those people are often quite sort of loud, extrovert, domineering people quite often.
Yeah.
And so that the environment has been built for them, really. They would like it to stay that way.
Good point.
It's not actually serving a lot of the people that they are leading.
If more people work at home or in coffee shops or wherever, does it lead to longer hours? Because I know we were talking about the WHO report that came out a couple of weeks ago, and very concerned about long hours. What do you think was the impact of more non-synchronous working is going to be?
That's more of a problem to do with the way that that work from home has been done in some organisations. So, what you get at the moment in offices as well is a lot of presenteeism and a lot of performative behaviour. So people looking like they're busy and just being there rather than actually doing productive work.
Yeah.
What's happened with work from home is that leaders have decided to try and replicate the office environment over the internet. And so I've got people stuck on Zoom all day, which is completely pointless. Or have even invested in this surveillance software, actually watches people in their home, sees when they're logged on and what they're doing and what documents they're opening, which I think is just an abomination. I think that should be made illegal, personally.
What do things like that do to productivity, to employee engagement, general attitudes in the workplace? More importantly, I guess, what have you got to do to fix it?
It kills both of those because it essentially means there's a lack of trust. And I think one of the things we have learned over the last year, to the surprise of a lot of leaders, is they can actually trust their people to get on with the job that they're given, and people will work without being supervised because they just want to get the job done and they want to achieve the goals they've been set.
Yeah, I certainly agree with that. I saw lots of people who suddenly realised that stuff was going on even though people were working from home. But at the same time, you've got a large number of people, as we said just now, determined to get it back into the office for, I guess what you're saying is personal reasons.
Yeah, largely, or just a lack of awareness of.
I'd love to get a tip for you for a non-introverted leader, perhaps, who wants to enhance their team's ability to do this focused work and get better contributions from their team.
There's a danger in the standard office environment that leaders just hear those who have got the loudest voices and do all the talking. And I think one of the benefits of where we're going is that there'll be a lot less of that going on. So leaders need to focus more on the productive outputs, the quality of the work that's done, rather than the noise and the quantity that's thrown at. And they might have to work a bit harder to do that, but they need to pay more attention to the ones that they're not hearing from.
And are there particular ways they can look at the quality of the output rather than the noise that comes with it?
Well, I think they have to be a bit more considered about the types of work that's going on. As we move much more over to knowledge work rather than sort of straightforward admin, which is what a lot of work has been in the past, more and more of that is that sort of deep focused work. And so it's looking for different things than they have in the past.
No, that makes a lot of sense. What about introverts, and how can they improve their ability in this new shaped workplace?
Well, I think it's a great opportunity for introverts because we're moving away from everybody being in one place at one time and shouting to what we call asynchronous working, where that time together is at a premium, and therefore it's important for people to think things through beforehand, and particularly to write them down clearly. And these are things that introverts are very good at. So they need to have confidence in their abilities and spend a bit of time honing their writing skills, because I think that's going to pay dividends going forward. People who can write well and clearly are going to shine.
Brilliant. Thank you, Colin. Colin, I've really enjoyed our conversation. When some of the listeners want to get back in touch with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Do post quite a lot of stuff on LinkedIn, so you can look there, or you can go to the website, which is decrapifiedwork.com.
Colin, thank you so much.
It's a pleasure. Thanks a lot.
And now it's time for Introvert Myth of the Week. Those crazy stories that I hear and you hear that some people actually believe.
This week's myth has come to the fore a lot in the return to work discussions, and for that reason alone needs dispelling. Introverts are anti-social. Well, it's rubbish. Introverts may not choose to go out to the social event every day, especially the work social, but they're not anti-social. In my recent discussions, many introverts are looking forward to returning to the office when it's safe to do so. The trick for you is to create team events, especially team rebuilding events, which many people are thinking about at the moment, that won't cause them to drain so much energy. Give me a call if you'd like some ideas.
I'm John Baker. Thank you for listening. I hope you found it useful. Please add a review on the iTunes store. There's a new episode every Thursday on your podcast provider or at activateyourintrovert.co.uk. Until then, go be introversial, activating your introverts, building your business.